Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Crushing Land. I'm Jonathan. I'm happy to be here with you guys again as we discuss another relevant topic to your land investing. And it's a question that comes up quite often is how to find quality leads. It's something that pretty much every beginner is going to ask. And then even as people get along in the process and as they're growing, as they're doing more, they're wondering, well, are they still out there? How am I looking at this? Why am I not finding them as easy as before? Or whatever it may be. So people still kind of reflect on it. And before we get into how to find the quality leads, let's take a moment to actually discuss what a quality lead is. Because often people get bogged down on this. And what it does is it narrows down your marketing field by being bogged down it. What does that mean? It means that you're putting in extra filters, extra parameters that you really don't need to do. And that could either be because of your own perceptions, what you think is a quality lead and what you need to have, or unfortunately, what some teach as basically the only type of lead to go after. And so some examples of that may be that they only go after properties, if it's your own thoughts, some properties that appeal to you. Well, you're looking at it and being like, okay, well, what kind of lot would I want to build a house on it? So, well, it has to be this size, it has to be this, in this area, it has to have this infrastructure in place, whatever it may be, and you're narrowing down the parameters based on that. And that's something that we work with our students with all the time because they come in, they're like, well, I set this parameter, this parameter, this parameter, this parameter to filter down our list. And we sit there and we say to them, well, why did you include this, and this? Well, what's the reasons that you did that? And pretty much every time we remove them because there's really no reason for those to be added. It's just something that they did on their own. As I mentioned, some of that comes from education, from teaching that's out there, because people will say, well, only, you want to get the best leads, but you want it to be focused on, areas that builders want to go after. So you're only going after info lots. We only want lots of properties that allow X type of homes or, residential zoning, that type of thing, where they take out commercial, agricultural, industrial, whatever it may be. The other thing, that's very common is utilities. Oh, well, does it have public water? Does it have public sewer? That type of thing. If not, they start removing them. So you're immediately taking out properties where there could be quality leads because you're looking at things based on your parameters. And they're looking at it from the perspective of the quality lead, as in maybe the easiest possible property to sell, a property that they could push to their buyers list very quickly, a property they could push to a builder very quickly, things like that. So they're looking at it from that quality perspective as opposed to the lead itself. And that's a big mistake because quality leads come in all different types of property. So what does a quality lead actually look like? Well, it's really any lead that is one, willing to sell their property, and two, sell it at a price that makes sense from an investor's standpoint, where we can then resell the property and make money with it. So if it fits those two parameters, just those two, it's a quality lead. And so you don't want to get too hung up on that. So are people more likely to be a quality lead than others? Absolutely, right? Maybe people that inherited the property, people that are just sick of owning the property, people that stop paying their taxes on the property, people that have some code violations on the property, whatever it may be. There's a lot of different things. Got it in a divorce, their plans change, they decide not to use it anymore. That list just goes on and on and on and on. So the question that people ask all the time is then, well, why aren't you focusing on those very specific things? Well, then the question would become, well, which one, right? Because there are people out there that basically focus on tax delinquent properties, right? You've probably seen things like that. But the vast majority of our deals are not tax delinquent. So if we focus just on them, they might be a little bit more motivated, they might be a little bit more qualified, but yet I'd be losing a whole bunch of other ones. What about the ones that inherited the properties? What about the ones that just changed their minds? Maybe they've owned it for a year and changed their minds. Maybe they've owned it for 10 years and changed their mind, right? We don't know those details. So if we're just focusing on very small things, very specific things, we're obviously alienating a lot of people. We're removing them. And again, we're bringing our field down. So we're not marketing to as many people because of that. So that's where, we don't want to focus on just a single thing like that, right? We want to be trying to reach out and get the best possible lead that there is out there. So by focusing on a wide pool of types of properties and not putting our own ideas into it, and then also being able to go after all different types of people that might be selling for different reasons, we have a much more likelihood that we're going to get the best possible leads, the best possible quality from those different individuals. So hopefully that makes sense there as you're following that along, because obviously we want to get the best possible thing. We don't want to be marketing to 10,000, I'm sorry, to 2,000 people when we could be marketing to 10,000 people, right? And so that's an example there where we're going to get more deals because of that. Now, one of the other things, obviously, that people bring up or they ask about is going back to the initial thing. Well, why aren't we going after certain higher quality types of property? And again, you're putting your own views in there, and that's the reason. I've sold numerous, hundreds of properties over the years that we're buying for under $1,000, very, very low end properties, and selling them for a few $1,000s, right? Many times with financing, many times for cash, doesn't really matter, but we're making multiple times our investment on those properties. Those didn't fit any of those parameters, but it was still, a quality deal that was happening, and it was a quality lead because that person was willing to sell that property at that discounted price. And so basically they fit the parameters, right? It was a property that they were willing to sell, and they were willing to sell it at a price that I could then turn and make a profit on. So looking at those parameters, it broadens out what your quality lead is. So you don't want to be filtering down endlessly, obviously, to be getting properties that you say, well, this is a quality property. That's way different than a quality lead. And what your idea of quality property is may be completely wrong too, because in my book, quality property is from an investing standpoint, not from building my own house, not from where I would live, nothing like that, but just from an investing standpoint. A quality property is obviously one that as an investor, I can make a return on. And that's what you should be looking at as well. So just some tips there on having the right mind frame when it comes to quality leads and reaching out to these people. So obviously the first step is reaching out to them. So after you've narrowed this down, and really what you're going to be looking at is getting it filtered down to properties that in general this can work with you on, right? Whatever that may be. So properties with a certain dollar value and up, or whatever it may be, we're going to focus on those. And then from there, it's letting people self-qualify as they're reaching out to you. They're going to reach out to you. They're going to say, yes, I'm interested in selling this property. So they've already hit the first parameter there, right? They're interested in selling their property. And this is going to be all over the place. These are going to be low-end properties, going to be high-end properties, all different. But the next thing is obviously selling it at a price that makes sense to you. Well, you're not going to know that until they have the conversation with them, until they tell you this. So that's the second piece there. So obviously, if they're saying this, I'm interested in an offer, and it does fit within reason that you can make an offer to them, you are then saying that out, and that's where the follow-up is key, to stay in front of that, because now you've identified that person as a potential quality lead because they're interested in selling. Now are they interested in taking your offer? Well, the only way you're going to find that out is by making the offer and then continuing to stay in front of them with that information, because the more touches that you have with that person, the more likely that they are going to be to sell you the property. So again, just not a whole lot of time, just a little bit of time on quality leads and what it actually means. But the biggest takeaways in this is, do not put your own observations or other people's observations of what a quality lead is into your marketing, right? Don't worry about what the property is. Don't worry about what you would do with the property. Don't worry about if you would live there. Don't worry about if it has this or this or this or this or this or this or this. Really, all it comes down to is it a property that I can turn for a profit as an investor? Because that's quality from an investment standpoint. And then as far as the lead itself, when that person is reaching out to you, it's are they interested in selling? Yes. Okay. Well, then based on what they're telling me, can I turn that over for a profit? Can I make an offer to them and then sell that property for a profit? And if so, then you've got a quality lead there, and obviously something that you're going to keep following up with and trying to get that deal done. Now, not everybody's going to take your offers, right? Because they may say, it's worth this and it's really worth this, or they may want this. And there's a lot of different variables that go into this. But the more that you do this, the more that you reach out to people, the more that you follow up with them, the more deals that you're going to do. And just remember, you don't know who that quality person is. Yes, there's certain types that are more likely to be quality. Like I already mentioned, there's certain ones that they inherited it, they don't want to pay taxes anymore, they got it in a divorce, their plans changed, all of these different things, right? But you don't know where those people are. In some cases you do. You can find out who's tax delinquent, things like that. But for the vast majority of them, you have no idea where they are. So you reach out to them, you let them reach out to you, right? Based on your marketing, qualify themselves, and then from there you go down the steps. So finding quality leads is not as difficult as some people make it out to be. And just like so many other things in this business, the biggest part is just taking a step back, not overthinking it, not interjecting personal feelings about the property, things like that into it, just looking at it from the sole perspective of investing. Is this somebody that could sell me this property, is interested in selling this property? And if so, is it a property that I could take and buy and then resell and make a profit on? And if so, you have a quality lead. So thank you for joining us on this episode of Crushing Land. We'll catch you next time.